On the day Maya should have felt closest to her family, she instead learned how deeply someone could be cut by those meant to love her. But before we step into her story, I want to turn to you for a moment. Who are you? From what city are you watching this? Tell us in the comments and make this space a little warmer with your presence. And while you're here, tap that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss stories like this one. Now, let's begin. Maya grew up believing that love would protect her, shape her, and carry her forward. As a black woman in a mostly white suburb, she fought for every bit of belonging she had. Her father, Thomas, had remarried when she was only 8, and although her stepmother Claire always kept a polite smile, Maya felt like her presence was something Claire tolerated rather than embraced. Still, she tried. She studied hard, built a career, lived with honesty, and showed up to every holiday, every birthday dinner, and every graduation, hoping one day her family would stop seeing her as an outsider. For years, it felt like enough. But the truth was waiting beneath the surface, patient and cold. It revealed itself the year her younger stepsister Lily got engaged. Lily, the golden child, the one who looked like a reflection of Claire, had always been treated like a small miracle. She was soft-spoken, gentle, and endlessly adored. But to Maya, she was also warm and kind, someone who didn't seem to carry the same silent judgment their mother did. So when Lily announced her engagement, Maya hugged her tightly and meant every word of congratulations. She never imagined the wedding would be the moment her own family would show her exactly where she stood. It started subtly. She noticed she wasn't included in the wedding group chat. She brushed it off. Then fittings were scheduled, but she never received an invitation to attend. She asked Lily about it, and Lily said something vague about the bridal party being kept small and simple. But it didn't bother Maya. She wasn't expecting to be a bridesmaid. She just assumed she'd be there to witness her sister's day. After all, how could she not be? But as the months went on, small omissions became patterns. Family gatherings were filled with wedding talk she was never part of. Decisions were already made before she even heard about them. She tried to tell herself she was imagining things, that insecurity was painting shadows. But then came the afternoon when everything became painfully clear. Maya had stopped by her father's house to drop off some documents he needed. She wasn't staying long, just a quick hello. But as she walked in, she heard laughter coming from the living room. Bridesmaids, all of them. Dresses spread across the sofas, fabric glimmering. And there, at the center, was Claire, handing out small gift boxes tied with soft ribbons. Maya froze. Lily looked up, and her expression shifted into guilt. The kind of guilt that appears only when a truth becomes too visible to hide. "Oh," Lily said, her smile faltering. "We were going to tell you." And Claire, without missing a beat, added, "We just didn't want you to feel pressured, Maya. These things can be complicated. Complicated." A word that tried to wrap prejudice in silk. Maya nodded, swallowed her hurt, and offered a weak smile before heading out again. She didn't want to cry there. She didn't want them to see her wounded. She didn't want them to believe, even for a moment, that they had power over her heart. But they did. More than she wanted to admit. She convinced herself that maybe she simply wasn't part of the bridal party. But of course, she would still be invited as family. That hope carried her through the next week, through work, through quiet nights when her thoughts grew too loud. Then, one evening, while she was cooking dinner, her phone buzzed. A message from her father. Not a call. A message. She opened it, expecting something ordinary. Instead, she read 5 words that hollowed her out in an instant. "The wedding is this Saturday." She stared at the screen. Saturday. 3 days away. She scrolled, searching for more. A time, a place, something resembling an invitation. But there was nothing. No address. No warm line like, "We hope you'll be there." Nothing. She typed, "Where is it?" He replied 10 minutes later. It's all set. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. A dismissal. A closing of a door. For the first time in years, Maya felt something inside her break. Not loudly, quietly, like a rope finally snapping after being pulled too tight for too long. She realized then that this wasn't an oversight. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, a deliberate decision to exclude her, to pretend she wasn't family when it mattered most. She paced her apartment, searching for something to say, but there was nothing. No apology had been offered, no explanation. She went to bed that night with a heaviness in her chest, one that didn't ease even when the morning came. But fate is strange. It shows cruelty in one moment and clarity in another. 2 days later, while driving home from the grocery store, she saw something that made her grip the steering wheel until her knuckles whitened. A billboard. A massive printed announcement celebrating Lily's wedding, featuring a photo of Lily and her fiancé, smiling with joy. Beneath them, in elegant gold letters, was the venue name, the Rose Garden Estate. They hadn't invited her, but they had made the wedding a public spectacle. And that was when Maya made a decision that would change everything. She would go. Not because she wanted to cause trouble, not because she wanted attention, but because she deserved to know the truth, face to face, without excuses or avoidance. She would walk in as the sister they tried so hard to erase, and she would no longer carry their silence as her burden. The day of the wedding arrived with a sky too bright for the weight in her heart. But she dressed carefully, choosing a deep, elegant blue dress, simple and dignified. She didn't want to stand out. She didn't want to overshadow the bride. She only wanted to be seen. She drove to the venue with steady breaths and trembling hands. Cars lined the road leading to the estate, guests chatting cheerfully as they made their way through the floral archways. And as Maya stepped out of her car and walked toward the entrance, she had no idea that her presence would bring the entire ceremony to a standstill, or that the truth behind her exclusion was far more painful than she ever imagined. When Maya stepped through the entrance of the Rose Garden Estate, she felt dozens of eyes drift toward her in quiet confusion, then slide away again, deciding she must belong to someone else's branch of the family tree. She kept walking, holding her clutch tightly, reminding herself that she was not intruding. She was simply attending the wedding of her own sister, something no one should have had to justify. Soft music floated through the air, the pre-ceremony hum of conversation rising and falling like waves. She scanned the crowd for her father, for anyone who might acknowledge her presence with warmth, but the moment she found him, his expression hardened. He hurried toward her, jaw tight, worry etched across his forehead, not because he feared she was hurt, but because he feared she might be seen. "Maya," he whispered sharply. "I didn't think you'd come." She stared at him, stunned by how natural the cruelty seemed in his voice, how accustomed he was to seeing her as a complication. "It's Lily's wedding," she answered quietly. "Of course I'd come." He sighed, glancing nervously around, then said something that froze her heart. "Just try not to make a scene." A scene. The mere possibility of her existence was, in his mind, a disruption. She stepped back, letting him walk away without another word, and for the first time she realized he had been pulling away from her for years, one quiet inch at a time, until the gap became something he no longer felt responsible for bridging. Still, she stayed. She took a seat at the back row, far from the family section that had her name carefully removed from the place cards. Guests laughed, posed for photos, admired the flower arrangements, unaware of the storm churning beneath her calm exterior. Then Lily appeared at the far end of the aisle, radiant in soft ivory, her face glowing with that pre-wedding blend of nerves and joy. But when her eyes met Maya's, the joy faltered. She stopped mid-step. The guests murmured, wondering what had caused the hesitation. Claire, walking beside her daughter with a bouquet in hand, followed Lily's gaze, and when she spotted Maya, Her face twisted into something sharp and cold. She leaned toward Lily and whispered something, but Lily shook her head with a look of quiet panic. It was a fracture in the perfect scene, small but unmistakable. The music continued, but Lily did not. Instead, she turned to the wedding planner and said something urgent, and within moments, the ceremony halted. Claire marched toward Maya, heels snapping against the pavement like slaps of accusation. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, keeping her voice low enough not to draw attention, but filled with a venom sharp enough to cut. "I came to watch my sister get married," Maya said, standing. Claire scoffed. "You weren't invited." The words were so blunt, so proudly spoken, that a few nearby guests turned their heads. Claire noticed and forced a brittle smile, lowering her voice again. "We wanted a certain image, Maya. A certain aesthetic. You don't fit it." And there it was. Not complicated. Not a misunderstanding. Not a missed message. Aesthetic. Appearance. As if Maya's skin tone disrupted their curated palette of delicate whites and golds. Before Maya could respond, Lily appeared beside her mother, eyes wide with guilt and shame. "Maya," she whispered, "I wanted you here." "I swear I did." Claire snapped. "Don't start." But Lily stepped forward. "You weren't supposed to find out like this," she said, her voice trembling. "Mom said the wedding would be easier without too many different family dynamics." Different. Another word dressed in silk but stitched with prejudice. Maya felt tears burn at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of them. So that's it?" she said softly. "I ruin your photo symmetry?" Lily shook her head desperately, but Claire's silence was the real answer. And then, unexpectedly, a voice rose from behind them. It was Lily's fiancé, Daniel. He had walked toward them when he saw the halted ceremony, concern etched across his features. "What's going on?" he asked. Lily opened her mouth, but Claire spoke first. "We're handling a private matter. Go back." But Daniel did not budge. He looked at Maya, then at Claire, then at Lily. "Is this about the invitation?" he asked, sounding both confused and horrified. Maya's breath caught. He knew. Daniel turned to Lily, his voice low but firm. "You told me your sister declined because of work. You said she couldn't make it." Lily's face crumpled. "I didn't want to fight with Mom," she whispered. The truth unraveled in real time, threads snapping, illusions collapsing. Daniel exhaled slowly, disappointment painting his features. "Claire," he said, turning to her, "did you seriously exclude Maya because of how the family photos would look?" Claire stiffened. "I won't let you twist my words. You don't need to," he replied. "They twist themselves." Guests were watching now, murmuring, eyes darting between the bride, the groom, and the sister they had just learned existed in a much more painful way. Lily looked as though she might break. She reached for Maya's hand, but Maya pulled back gently. Not out of anger. Out of exhaustion. Out of years of trying to earn a seat at a table where no one ever planned to set a place for her. "I came because I believed I mattered," Maya said, her voice calm, almost peaceful. "But I see now that I was wrong." She turned to leave, but Daniel stepped forward. "Wait," she paused. "I don't want this wedding without you here," he said. "I don't want a family built on exclusion. Lily and I talked about the future, about raising children who feel safe and loved. That can't start with us turning our backs on you." Lily began to cry. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." And in that moment, Maya saw the truth. Lily had not been the architect of this pain. She had been shaped by Claire, molded into someone afraid to challenge the person who raised her. Daniel took Lily's hand. "We're postponing," he said. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Claire's face drained of color. "You're ruining everything," she hissed. "No," Daniel said. "I'm stopping it from being ruined." But Maya shook her head. "Don't do this because of me," she said softly. "This is your day." Daniel met her eyes. A wedding can be rescheduled. Integrity can't. Lily nodded, wiping her tears. Claire stormed away, furious, her carefully crafted world crumbling. Maya felt overwhelmed, unsure whether to stay, to go, to speak, to breathe. And then Lily wrapped her arms around her in a trembling embrace. "From now on," she whispered, "I promise I will be your sister in action, not just in name." Daniel joined them, gently placing a hand on Maya's shoulder. "You are part of our family," he said. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt something warm take root inside her, a fragile hope that maybe the next chapter of her life would be written with people who chose her, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love. When she left the venue that day, she didn't feel defeated. She felt seen. And sometimes, being seen is the first step toward being healed. Thank you for watching this story unfold. If it touched you, if it made you think, or if it reminded you of the importance of standing up against quiet injustices, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. It helps more than you know.